Hi Vishwanath and welcome to Gaon Connection. We just wanted to know a little bit, keeping in mind the drought perspective and the floods perspective in the country. Just wanted your views on this whole thing about drought in certain parts of the country, flood in certain parts of the country. What do you understand of it?
This is the new normal, I think, in India, thanks to granular measurements of weather in different districts and even at taluk level. We're beginning to understand that the picture is always half complete. The drought and floods coexist together at the same geographies and at the same time in many parts of the country. We'll have to learn to deal with it in many ways. The Million Wells program of Bangalore is essentially a livelihoods program. We figured that there was a community of well diggers who are a traditional community who've been digging wells for 800 to 1000 years. They're called the Mannu Vadders. They don't have a livelihood now because people are drilling bore wells instead of open wells. Also, Bangalore is in the news that it's going to run out of groundwater by 2020. The Niti Aayog says that, the BBC says that Bangalore is going to run out of water. So we wanted to put the two together and say, with the livelihoods of the well diggers, can we dig 1 million recharge wells, put at least half of the rainwater that falls on Bangalore into the aquifer, bring up the groundwater table and make sure that we become groundwater resilient. So that's the overall objective of the Million Wells program. A recharge well is about 3 feet in diameter. It's about 20 feet deep. It's a hole in the ground. It's lined with precast concrete rings and it's got a cover on top. It picks rooftop rainwater, filters it and then puts it into this well so that the earth is able to swallow the water. This water reaches the groundwater and actually brings up the groundwater table. It also has another benefit. It mitigates urban flooding to a large extent. So there's this livelihoods component, the ecological water security component and the urban flood mitigation component to the Million Wells scheme. We give the example of a small plot of land in Bangalore. If normal rain falls and it's not built upon, then about 15% of the rainwater runs off into the storm drain, about 10% goes into the groundwater, and about 75% stays in the soil up to 1 meter as soil moisture and is either evaporated or evapotranspired. The moment you build on the plot, the runoff becomes 90 to 100%. From 15 it goes up to 100%. We said that each plot should become responsible for this excess water and actually put it into the aquifer so that it doesn't get into the storm drains and cause flooding. At the same time, the aquifer level comes up. So the rainwater harvesting policy and the bylaw has been framed in such a fashion, and I played a small part in it, that for every square meter of roof area, you create a 20 liter storage or recharge. And for every square meter of paved area on the side of the building, you create 10 liters of storage or recharge per day, per event of rainfall. This way, you are able to harvest close to 70 to 80% of the rainfall that falls on Bangalore. The building bylaw also suggests that you can either store the rainwater or recharge the rainwater. That option is available to you. So you can actually filter the water and stock it up in HDPE drums or in underground sump tanks or even over the ground brick masonry tanks. If the catchment is kept clean and if the filter works well, this is actually potable water. You can use it for drinking and cooking. That option is also available. The excess water you can recharge. So you have 3 options, either store, either recharge, or do a combination of both, store and recharge. Store and recharge is the option most preferred by people. Ours is a small plot of land. It's a typical middle class size, 30 feet by 50 feet. And on that we've built about 100 square meters. So it's 150 square meters of plot area, 100 square meters of built area. We harvest rainwater at various levels. We pick up the staircase runoff and stock it up in a 500 liter rain barrel. That gives us all the drinking and cooking water for the whole year.
Drinking water for the whole year?
For the whole year, because the rainfall in Bangalore is well distributed. It's distributed over 9 months. And the only non-rainy season is about 3 months, but even there you get a couple of rains so that it stocks up. At the second level, we store water on the ground and we make sure that we collect about 2000 liters there. This is used exclusively for bathing and for washing clothes. The third level, we collect water in a sump tank, which is about 8000 liters. This water is used for all other purpose in the house. The excess of all the waters that we have as rain, we made a recharge well, which is in the storm drain in front of our house. Now this storm drain actually picks up 1 million liters of water from the road, from the neighboring houses, from at least 10,000 square meters of area, and puts that 1 million into the aquifer. Our water demand is only about 70 liters per person per day. 3 people in the house, about 210 liters per person per day. We also have a grey water reuse system where we pick up the bath water and the washing machine water, push it through a biological filter, and reuse it for flushing the toilet below as well as for gardening on the terrace. Finally, we have a composting toilet which separates urine and solids on the top floor, which uses hardly any water, and that composted material becomes fertilizer for our garden on the terrace. So through demand management, through recycling water and through rainwater harvesting, we're broadly sufficient for about 10 months in a year. There are drinking and cooking water requirements for the full year. It's not really rocket science. You need 10 liters for drinking and cooking combined, and you need 3,650 liters in the whole year. That's easily achievable if we keep the catchment clean. Even in the driest of lands, we can harvest that much water. Mumbai also has a series of old open wells. The city survived on open wells till the piped water supply scheme came. So if there are open wells, then there is an aquifer, and it's an unconfined aquifer. The hydrogeology is a bit complex in different parts of Mumbai because it's also filled up land, islands which have been filled up upon. So it's not that everywhere that you can recharge, but certainly in certain places you can recharge. And there is storage as an option. Storage is not very difficult to manage in Mumbai. Underground some tanks can serve the purpose, or even over the flat storage tanks can serve the purpose. And the trick with rainwater harvesting is to begin. The moment you begin and you start to stock a little bit of water, you find ways of managing water well. We in India typically have what's called the starting problem. If we overcome the starting problem, we're good to go. The city has to place itself in a river basin. If it's drawing water from dams, it has to ensure social justice to the people who are being deprived of their waters and make sure that arrangements are made so that the whole basin gets drinking water. It's not the city alone. That's the social justice angle. And there's an ecological justice angle in which investments have to be made to protect old forests, protect springs, protect soil, so that the water is continuously available, not only to the city, but to the tribals and to all the other animals and birds which occupy the ecological space. Finally, the city has to be responsible for wastewater. The wastewater that's generated from the city should be treated enough for it to be absorbed by the environment without any harm. Unless the city places itself in the river basin and thinks of the river basin as a whole and not only about itself, we have a problem. So when we talk to the well diggers, so it's not us running it as a project, so we're running it as some kind of a movement where we're creating awareness about it. But when we talk to the well diggers, our guesstimate is that more than 100,000 wells have been dug over the last 6 years, 7 years. The pace has picked up because apartments, gated communities, layouts, wards are coming forward to say, hey, we also want to do these wells. The speed at which we are going, and if the people persist in that fashion, we think that in the next 5 years we should get to 1 million. Two responses which have come for this drought and the scarcity of water, and also the narrative in the media saying that Bangalore is going to run out of water. The government response, let's get water from Linganmakki, which is 380 kilometers away. The people's response, let's dig wells, let's harvest rainwater, let's save our lakes, let's get wastewater recycling. These two conjunctive responses, not really complementary, but two different kind of responses, are coming because of the narrative of scarcity of water and because of the drought that's been felt. Less number of monitoring stations. We know for a fact in Bangalore that actually the groundwater table is rising in the city center. We have water in wells. We know that there are 10,000 open wells in Bangalore which have good clean water to drink, open wells. But we also know that in the periphery of the city, the groundwater table has collapsed to 1,800 feet. The question is, how do we balance this groundwater mound which is rising in the city center and the collapse in the peripheries? Normally, in an average year of rain, about 8% to 10% of groundwater is already recharged through normal processes. So groundwater, the annual replenishment component will continue to happen, right? So it's not that we're going to run out of it. It will be limited in amount. But if we increase it through recharge measures, then we'll never run out of groundwater if done properly. So it's a set of 3 projects where the city wants to treat wastewater that it generates, about 1,440 million liters per day, of which 770 million liters will be sent to the districts of Kolar, Chikballapur and Bengaluru rural and Bengaluru urban, Anekal Taluk in particular. And it will fill up these lakes, about 136 in Kolar. Overall, about 500 lakes will be eventually filled up with the 770 million liters of treated secondary wastewater. This will recharge the aquifers and will be used for irrigation purposes. This is one of the world's largest transfer of urban wastewater for agriculture purpose. We need to be careful that we monitor the scheme well, we make sure that the treatment occurs well, that it doesn't impact groundwater. But if done well, then it can be a boon to the farmers and it can restore the ecological integrity of the basin also. But if done badly, it can be a problem. We are at the cusp of running the program. Hopefully, we are doing well so far and we can improve at every step. It can then become a model for other urban cities to link up to their hinterland. Agriculture in crisis, agriculture in distress, getting water, nutritive water from the city and therefore prospering and feeding the city in turn.